and welcoming Junior Vice Commander Linda Shelton.
Good morning. I need to get a little drink. And get my notes. It's my honor to speak with you this morning about the history of women in the military. I am not the first woman to be able to call myself a proud veteran of the United States military. Many came before me, and many have followed, and many will follow. Throughout the generations, American women have taken up the challenge and paved the way for the millions who have and are serving in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, and the Coast Guard. 1,500 women served during the Spanish-American War. Over 10,000 during World War I. 400,000 during World War II. 130,000 during the Korean War. 7,000 during the Vietnam War. And 41,000 during the Persian Gulf War. Today, there are nearly 1.4 million, or 14% of our active duty personnel are women. More than 280,000 of them have done tours in Iraq, Afghanistan, or other overseas bases. Indeed, 152 women have given their lives during these conflicts. This morning, let's take a few minutes to reflect a little more on the historical perspective of women in military service. During our Revolutionary War, women were allowed to serve in military camps. They served as laundresses, cooks, and nurses. History tells us that there was one woman by the name of Deborah Sampson who actually disguised herself as a man so that she could fight for the freedom that we hold so dearly today. In the War of 1812, women continued their mission to serve, expanding their horizons to shipboard nursing duties. During the Civil War and on into the Spanish-American War, the role of women escalated beyond that of nurse only. They held roles as hospital administrators, support staff, and spies, sometimes disguised as men. The desire of American women to be involved in military service continued to increase. During World War I, thousands served in administrative roles and as nurses, and over 400 lost their lives. Congressional orders during World War II brought about the establishment of the Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Marine, and Air Force Women's Auxiliaries and Reserve Corps. Some might remember such acronyms as WAVES, WASPs, and WACs. At home and overseas, 400,000 women filled the ranks of support staff, ambulance drivers, pilots, nurses, mechanics, and musicians. A few years following World War II, the United States Congress granted permanent status in the military for women to have veterans entitlement benefits. During the 50s, 60s, and 70s, women continued to sacrifice and serve in the Auxiliary Corps of the United States military. Thousands served at home and overseas, and nurses were seen in the battle zones of the Korean and Vietnam Wars. Also, during the 50s, 60s, and 70s, a shift in our society was occurring. This was causing women to become restless in the traditional roles and the limitations of those roles. The draft came to a conclusion, and as a nation, we became reliant upon an all-volunteer military. Soon, it became apparent that women, as part of the regular military, would be vital to the success of the all-volunteer force. In 1975, I joined the Women's Army Corps, better known as the WAC. Although we had weapons training and basic training, we also had mandatory classes on etiquette and the manner in which to properly apply makeup. After basic training, I was assigned to an elite all-women's unit, and we actually faced reprimand if we left the building with a runner in our hose or failed to put on our lipstick. By the end of my 3-year tour, I found myself in South Korea wearing a steel pot helmet, combat boots, and riding in the back of a deuce-and-a-half troop carrier. Things had changed. Since the integration of women into the regular armed services, our all-volunteer military has in fact been a success. In the last 30 to 40 years, the role of women in the military has reached into every rank in every branch of our military service. And this year, with the congressional lift on the ban of women in combat roles, women will fill nearly every job role that there is in our United States military. In our mind's eye, when we think veteran, we see a sea of faces. In our mind's eye, when we picture those faces, we need to realize that every 4th or 5th veteran is in fact a woman. One of my favorite quotes begins with this question: what is a veteran? A veteran, whether active duty, discharged, retired, or reserved, is someone who at some point in his or her life wrote a blank check payable to the United States of America in an amount up to and including my life. Thank you.